Hello, my name is Jessie Anderson, and for my APUSH final project, I chose to explore the life and legacy of Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States. Major figures involved in Andrew Jackson's life include John Quincy Adams, the Cherokee Indians, Peggy Eaton, John C. Calhoun, Henry Clay, and Martin Van Buren. I've created a timeline of major political, economic, social, and cultural events that took place during the lifetime and presidency of Jackson, the most important of which I will elaborate on more in depth. February 9, 1824, John Quincy Adams is elected in the corrupt bargain. Adams receives the votes of 13 states, while 7 states vote for Jackson, and 4 vote for William Crawford. The election was thrown into the House after none of the 5 candidates received a majority of the Electoral College votes cast. Although Jackson does receive the largest number of popular votes cast, with over 30,000 more than cast for Adams. April 23, 1828, the Jackson Tariff Dispute. Andrew Jackson's supporters in the House passed tariff legislation aimed at drawing Mid-Atlantic voters to the coalition formed to defeat President John Quincy Adams in the upcoming election. The Senate passes the measure on the 13th of May. Southerners oppose the tariff package, and their opposition to the measure will accumulate in the nullification crisis of 1832. December 3, 1828, Jackson is elected. Andrew Jackson is elected as the 7th President of the United States of America. He receives 178 votes in the Electoral College, with the incumbent John Quincy Adams receiving only 63. Jackson also receives 56% of the popular vote, and every state south of the Potomac and west of New Jersey votes for him. John C. Calhoun is elected Vice President. December 19, 1828. South Carolina to nullify tariff. The South Carolina state legislature declares the tariff legislation enacted by Congress the previous May unconstitutional. John C. Calhoun secretly offers expedition in protest, which accompanies this declaration, explaining the doctrine of nullification, which is the right of individual states to nullify federal legislation that they consider unconstitutional. January 19, 1830, the Hayne-Webster debate. A week-long Senate debate begins between Robert Hayne of South Carolina and Daniel Webster of Massachusetts over states' rights and the meaning of the Union. Triggered by a bill involving Western lands, Hayne and Webster summarize the conflicting positions on state and federal authority that will lead to the 1832 nullification crisis. That brings us to May 28, 1830, the Indian Removal Act. This is when Congress passes the Indian Removal Act, authorizing the President to pursue ownership of all Indian lands east of the Mississippi River. The Indians would be compensated with new lands drawn from the public domain west of the Mississippi River. 7th, 1831, the Peggy Eaton Affair. Following corruption within the Jacksonian cabinet, Secretary of War John Eaton resigns. Secretary of State Martin Van Buren will do the same on the 11th of April. Jackson's most loyal cabinet members, Eaton and Van Buren, both resign so that Jackson can request the resignations of all of his other cabinet officers as a part of a general reorganization of his government, thus ending the political infighting caused by the Peggy Eaton Affair. March 3, 1832, Worcester v. Georgia. The United States Supreme Court rules in the case of Worcester v. Georgia that the Georgia law requiring white residents to obtain a license to reside on Cherokee lands violates the political rights of the Cherokees. The court rules that the Cherokees are a separate nation, subject to the authority of the federal government, but only the federal government, as stipulated by treaties. July 10, 1832, Jackson vetoes the Bank of the United States. President Jackson vetoes the bill rechartering the Bank of the United States. This bank's current charter will expire on the 1st of March, 1836. This resulted in federal deposit being placed into state pet banks, thus leading to a fragmented country. July 17, 1832. The 1832 tariff. The United States Congress passes another tariff measure with the support of President Jackson. As a concession to Southern critics of the 1828 tariff, the new law reduces the tariff rates on most goods from a high of 47% to 25%. but implicit in the passage of the act is the administration's commitment to the tariff as a necessary revenue measure and a rejection of Southerners' complaints to its inconstitutionality. November 19, 1832. The Nullification Crisis. A special state convention, called by the Georgia state legislature, convenes to discuss nullification. On the 24th of November, the convention adopts an ordinance nullifying the tariffs of 1828 and 1832. The ordinance further specifies that the federal government attempts to implement the tariff by force would constitute grounds for secession. December 5, 1832. Jackson re-election. Democrat Andrew Jackson defeats Republican Henry Clay to win re-election as President of the United States. Jackson receives 219 Electoral College votes, and Clay receives 49. William Wirt, the nominee of the anti-Masonic Party, carries Vermont in its 7 Electoral College votes. Martin Van Buren is elected Vice President. December 10, 1832. Jackson condemns nullification. Jackson issues a proclamation to the people of South Carolina condemning nullification and asserting the sovereignty of the federal government. February 20th, 1833. The Force Bill. The United States Senate passes the Force Bill requested by President Andrew Jackson, authorizing him to use military force to implement the federal tariffs in South Carolina. The House of Representatives passes the bill on the 1st of March. March 1st, 1836. The Bank of the U.S. expires. Its charter expired. The Second Bank of the United States ceases to operate as a national bank. It receives a new charter from the state of Pennsylvania and opens as the Bank of the United States of Pennsylvania. April 5th, 1838. The Trail of Tears. The first party of Cherokees that had resisted removal begins a forced march westward towards their new lands in present-day Oklahoma along a path later named the Trail of Tears. And now for some fun facts on Andrew Jackson. First, why was he so often called Old Hickory? Well, the fiery Jackson had a tendency to respond to criticism cast on his honor with pistols. Historians estimate that Old Hickory may have participated in anywhere between 5 and 100 duels. When a man named Charles Dickinson called Jackson a worthless scrundle, a poltroon, and a coward in a local newspaper in 1806, the future president challenged his accuser to a duel. At the command, Dickinson fired and hit Jackson in the chest. The bullet missed Jackson's heart by barely more than an inch. In spite of the serious wound, Jackson stood his ground, raised his pistol, and fired a shot that struck his foe dead. Jackson would carry around the bullet in his chest as well as another from a subsequent duel for the rest of his life. Secondly, Jackson's portrait appears on the $20 bill, although he detested paper money. Chastened by a financial hit he once took from a devalued paper notes, Jackson was opposed to the issuance of paper money by state and national banks. He only trusted gold and silver as currency and shut down the Second Bank of the United States, in part because of its ability to manipulate paper money. It is ironic that Jackson not only appears on the $20 bill, but also his portrait in the past has appeared on $5, $10, $50, and $10,000 denominations, in addition to the Confederate $1,000 bill. In conclusion, the era of Jacksonian democracy carried a magnitude of themes that had yet to be seen in the United States up until his presidency. Jackson appealed to the American people through an image of the common man, which afforded him with winning the popular vote in 3 presidential elections. The legacy of Jackson extends far into U.S. history and is responsible for many social, economic, cultural, and political themes that we see today. Thank you.